I was preparing, I remembered a story about a guy, and he was walking, I guess it was out west or whatever, and it was, kind of a deserted place, and, as the day went on, and I guess the heat got, the sun got a little warmer, and he got thirsty. But there was nothing. He had run out of his own water, so he just kept walking. And he kept going and going, and you know how you see in the movies, I guess, that your mind starts to wander, and you start to think of all kind of crazy things because of the thirst. Well, he came on this pump, the old-fashioned type pump where you had to crank it, you had to pump up and down, and the water would eventually come out. Well, on the side of the pump was a bucket that was full of water, and there was a sign, a little note on the side of it that said to pour the water into the pump, and then you could drink as much as you like, but please refill the bucket when you're done. And this was to prime the pump, right? Because that pump, if it dried out, it was not going to grab any water. It would never bring any water up. So you had to prime it first so that you could get the water. And like I said, you could drink as much as you wanted. Well, this guy was thirsty. So his first thought was, well, you know what? If I drink some of the water, I can get a little bit of my strength back. Then maybe I'll have enough to pour into the pump. But maybe not. So you had to think about it for a few seconds. So what would we do? What would we do when we came to that situation? Most of the time when we start to think about being thirsty, we think about the summertime, right? When you're working out in the yard and you're doing all this stuff and it's getting hot and we start to thirst. So what do? We go get something to drink. But what if it's not available? What if it's not around us at the time? You're working out in the garden and you got to walk back to the house or wherever it is that we have to journey a little bit for that drink, for that refreshment. See, we have to think to ourselves, what is it that we thirst for during this time of Lent? What is it that we are thirsting for? You see, the gospel talks about the Samaritan woman, right? Jesus had traveled to the well, and he gets to this well, and he doesn't even have a bucket, right? This well was different. You had to tie the bucket to it and drop it down into the well and pull a rope up. I'm sure the rope was there. But they didn't leave a bucket. Now, the whole story about the Samaritan woman is that she was there at noon because she was kind of an outcast from society. She had been divorced a few times and all of this stuff, so she didn't go early in the morning when the rest of the women went to the well to get their daily water. So she was there at a different time. So she comes up and Jesus asks her for a drink. Now, the other part of this story is that it said that Jews didn't associate with Samaritans. Well, the other part was that a man didn't talk to a woman unless she was his wife. So for this stranger to talk to her was really out of the ordinary for her also. But because it was Christ, because he was willing to break the rules of society, he was willing to reach out to this woman who needed his help, who was thirsting for something. She was searching throughout her life. That's why she had been living the life that she had lived. Because her thirst, she was looking, constantly searching. And like the old song says, she was looking for love in all the wrong places. But then she meets love in person. She met Jesus Christ in person and had this conversation with him. And he was willing to offer her his salvation. He was willing to offer her everything that he came to teach us in that instant. Full forgiveness, full mercy, and all of his love. You see, he offers this to us each and every day. Jesus Christ is searching for us. And what did he tell us on the cross? I thirst. So what was Jesus thirsting for? He was thirsting for our love. Last week I heard in a homily when the guy said that they said we are practicing Catholics. And he says that's because we just haven't quite got it right yet. We haven't completely perfected Catholicism within ourselves. And by not having Catholicism perfected in us, Christ is not perfected in us. So what are we thirsting for? What is it that we need in our lives more than anything else? What is it that we need in our lives that can bring us those things that are missing to fill in the empty places? There's only one answer to that question. But we have to find it for ourselves. And in prayer, when we go to that well, we have to hope that we can encounter Jesus like the Samaritan woman did. Because He's waiting for us. He's thirsting for us. And to let you know about the guy in the beginning, the story, he sat there for a little bit and he just kind of looked at the water, the bucket of water, and he looked at the note, and he said, you know what? The guy who came before me followed the instructions. So he dumped the bucket into the pump, primed the pump, drank his fill of water, and refilled the bucket so that the next person could have that life-saving water when they came to that pump. Jesus is calling us to be His disciples. He's calling us to offer the gift, that refreshment that He brings to us. He's asking us to be a witness of that to those that we meet. And to always remember that we pass on this faith that is not perfect in us, but that we continue to practice. Do we want to be that type of disciple?